just gonna save us 2 streams then?
All right, we're back. No, it's still one stream. We're back, everybody. Sorry about that.
Technical difficulties.
You don't mean that. You're not actually sorry. Is there anything left in my Wendy's bag?
There's no. I don't know.
Just take a quick look. Oh, it's empty, just like my soul.
Sorry.
Okay, and we're back. Good. Sorry about that, guys. We just lost connection for a second.
Oh, sorry.
I am a little bit.
We are sorry. We apologize.
You good? I mean, obviously you're not good.
I'm not.
No, yeah.
But it's because of.
What is happening? Oh, droid.
Oh.
You still have a droid?
The first one.
Oh my god.
And it's not safe for people who have epilepsy. Have you seen what his phone does?
The loading.
Oh yeah.
It flickers like those animated.
Yeah.
Like it is a weapon in the wrong hand.
Oh, it's because it's possessed.
All right, back on.
It's good. It runs mostly on spirits.
Back on track, everybody. Now we're going to be talking about Gnawer gifts.
All 4 of them.
First one we're going to talk about is Urban Ward.
No.
Protects an area, basically.
Urban Ward's great.
Hey, you want to have an Urban Karen? If you don't have this, you are wrong.
Yeah, it's difficult to just. It's a good gift. It lets them function in the city. It's not perfect because.
Well, it protects for a day per dot of survival, which if you're a Gnawer, you probably have a lot of survival. So
right.
Even if you don't, you just can stop by and do it every day. How long does the gift take to put up?
Standard action.
So why would you not just ward and just go on about your business?
Yeah, just because it costs. The Gnosis cost is 1. It's rank 1, so you're going to be able to do it. If you know you're going to be in an area, or even if you're in a scene in an area, just Urban Ward it.
Wait, so the target area is closed off. Is that umbrally as well?
Does it
No, it's not umbrally. No.
Does it say that?
It doesn't mention the umbra.
Well, because any power that supernaturally claims an area or the background territory makes the gauntlet impermeable so that people can't cross
Well,
it.
then in this case, it would be your territory.
Right, so I would say Urban Ward also has a lot of bootstrappy efficiency because it'll be a really funny look on people's faces when you're beating them up in the city and they're like, well, I'm going to step sideways. And you're like, no, you're not. This is my area.
That's not Urban Ward. That's territory, which is boss.
No, it's not. The way that it's written is territory is an example or any territory that's been claimed supernaturally by something.
I would say this would be supernaturally claiming a location.
Yeah.
Oh, look, and now you are a necessary part of every kill.
And they wrote it broadly to also include things like wards and the various powers without going through like, well, also this ward in this book and the wards we wrote in this book.
So now you're a necessary part of every kill box in a city.
Level 2.
Yeah, or the territory background.
Level 2 is Blink, which is basically Nosferatu trash can teleport.
That's exactly what it is.
What?
Spend a Gnosis, concentrate 3 turns.
3 turns.
Which must be somewhere within the same urban center you're currently located. You then appear.
You
vanish. Yep, you vanish and appear a few minutes walks from the target location within the same city. You will always appear in an unobserved location, never appear inside buildings or secured area.
Yeah.
If you have perception focus, who has perception focus?
Nobody. Fools.
You may bring one individual with you, which is pretty great.
Perception focus is pretty rare. Mm-hmm. There's builds for it, but I still maintain that you're better off getting it from your totem or through just start int focus and then get spirit vessel. Jesus.
Friend in need.
Keep saying.
Friend in need.
This is the best, one of my favorite gifts ever.
I actually think because friend in need is a 3, people are going to give short shrift to Gnawers in general because you can get everything from friend in need from spirits. You don't actually need Gnawers.
No, you do because the spirit has to have you. When you summon spirit,
you can't get many gifts from the spirit, but you can get plenty of health, gnosis, and everything.
Oh yeah,
else.
without friend in need, yeah.
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 You just you're like, I summon Gnawer spirits. Hey rat, how's it going? Pretty good. It's a good thing I got my occult in rat spirits. Now, give me health levels.
Well, you're not doing that with the awakened spirit gift because
Yeah, can.
That's errata.
No, wait, no. You get a cloud of occult with gafflings, and they're rank 3 if you're inspect. Just period.
What are you doing?
That way I can see.
Or you can like control up to a cloud of Gafflings with Inspect.
There you go.
Yeah.
And they're stock 3 instead of stock 2. So if they're stock 3 and they're Bonar spirits, which you can summon, you can just have them give you health levels and Gnosis. The only thing they can't give you is gifts.
And gifts are
If
the
you
shit.
have Awakened Major Spirit, then you don't need a Bonar because it can friend and need you any of the other Bonar gifts. You can get the most important one, which is their 4th level power, which is Echoing, so Savage Strike.
Savage Strike.
Which is that is a great goddamn power.
Alright, what's Savage Strike?
Tell us about it.
Oh, no, actually, you know what? We're done with Friend in Need, so it's gifts.
No, we should talk about Friend. It's still good.
What's it do?
You lend things to...
Is it like the old Friend in Need?
Friends.
Like,
yes.
so, well, define friends. Are friends people in your pack or people you identify as allies?
Anybody use the power.
Okay. Anybody willing.
Yeah.
You have to be willing.
Okay. And you can give them Gnosis?
You can give them Gnosis.
Health levels?
Health levels.
Can you give them Will?
No, I don't believe so.
No.
It's Gnosis, health levels, and gifts.
Alright, so what gifts can you give them besides... What gifts are they going to want from you besides Savage Strike?
As Bonar?
Yeah.
Then
again, I mean, like, you have to look at the auspices. You could have gifts that other people don't have.
Absolutely. I mean, you can end up giving them things that they just... Like, your friend needs to duel, right? Like, he's got to be on the mound.
That's such cheating.
Right. Well, I mean, so what? So you give him Resist Pain. It's always on. It doesn't cost to spend.
That's why he always plays Ragabash. Like, so what?
I mean, you... Look... There's a certain point that gamers are acculturated in Werewolf to not even look for cheating in duels because they just assume it's not there. So if you're not cheating in duels, you're doing it wrong. And I'm talking IC cheating. I'm not talking out-game cheating. Like, you can be defeated with awareness and a Korax. Avoid the Korax at all costs.
Or just have the Korax on your side.
Right, or be friends with the Korax. Be like, nope, this is all kosher, no powers are in use.
Wait. You can't friend in need, can you?
There's nothing saying you can't, because you just lose access to the gift.
Other than... Oh, no, it says other than friend in need.
Yeah, it says other than friend in need.
Because that's what makes friend in need broken. It's just like, oh, you give it to somebody who has powers that no one could get, like a Garal or something.
Well, or, hang on, you can have Thieving Talons of the Magpie, summon a level 3 Gaffling, take friend in need from the Gaffling, who works for you, and then you have friend in need. And you can give Thieving Talons of the Magpie to the actual fighter, or any other gift you have. The problem is they made Bonars. Like, Bonars aren't bad. They're great. As a matter of fact, they're super great. The problem is you can get almost all of that greatness without actually needing a Bonar. That's their downside.
They've made them redundant, is what you're saying.
Yeah, except for combat. The combat Bonars are still good. Bonar Arun's still good because of Savage Strike.
Alright, so what's Savage Strike do, then?
It's like Echoing Strike. So you spend a Gnosis...
Use your standard action to make a brawl attack.
It has to be brawl.
If you hit them, you do your normal damage in the brawl.
Right.
And then their very next initiative, they get hit for 2 more.
Right.
Which can't be reduced.
Right.
What happens if you miss the first one?
If it's...
They don't...
it doesn't do anything. If
but it
you miss,
doesn't
you miss.
stack.
No, you have to succeed in the first challenge.
Yeah.
So you have to hit them with the first one.
Yes.
It may be used during rage rounds, but multiple applications aren't going to change it. Appearance...
It's suffer 2... It's 2 ag instead.
Right.
So they echo twice.
No.
No. It's just it's Echo Ag instead of Echo. So it's a good hit. It's stacking on unpreventable aggravated damage. Anything that does that is great. So no chops, no soaks, no nothing, no powers that really affect it. It just happens. So your brawler, Bonars are ending up stacking a lot of damage, and it's a brawl attack, so it doesn't even have to necessarily be a punch. So look at it this way: your Get Fenris honor sanctions somebody, and then your Bonar spear tackles them with grapple, which is normally not that great, and moves them a few steps away. So now they're going to take 2 levels of ag because of honor sanction, and then the next round they're going to take 2 more levels of unpreventable ag because you succeeded in a brawl chop.
Wait.
It's one of the ways to make brawl
decent. No.
What?
What's it called?
You have to make a brawl attack.
Yeah.
Well, brawl attack warrior, because it's maneuver. You're doing a maneuver on a brawl attack, which is what grapple is.
I think it's anything that chops with
No,
brawl.
Which is the one that knocks you down?
Knockout.
No, knocks you down.
Trip?
It's not a maneuver.
Trip.
It's not a maneuver. It's a gift.
Falling touch?
That's the one.
Falling touch now blasts people away and can knock them down.
Falling touch, is it a brawl attack?
It is.
So you can falling touch them away.
I don't know if you can carrier attack like that.
Why not?
Because it's a power that requires you to spend a Gnosis and succeed in a brawl attack in and of itself, and then you get the effects of falling touch.
Yeah, you spend the Gnosis, then use your standard action to make a brawl attack. It's telling you what you're doing. You can't combo up with multiple carrier attacks.
Oh.
You can work it the other way, where, like, when we talked about Get having sort of a bootstrappy Vengeance of Samael, is that when they win, it says your next attack against them succeeds automatically or succeeds exceptionally automatically against them. Then you can have a fucking field day with what your next attack is.
Oh, yeah, you do it
because it's a really open category, so you can be like, yeah, the next thing I do...
But we're talking about Gnawers now, and I'm trying to find ways to make them
Well, they make
better.
Brawl not bad, which is pretty decent.
What's the audience saying?
Or other things.
What other things have you guys
yeah,
seen?
we should have commentary up. Because we
Well, I can't do both. It has to be one or the other there.
Oh, I see. We could have a phone up.
Why must I save all of you?
And Survivor is really good, too. I'm a fan of Survivor. Let's talk about Survivor really quick while they're doing whatever it is
They're a really great band. I don't...
Spend a point of willpower to retest. So, when you spend a point of willpower to retest, no separate activation. You get a +2 wildcard bonus to that willpower retest. 1. You also immediately heal 3 levels of damage. Don't care if it's normal or egg.
Well, it's anything that can... It's any attack that could cause you damage.
Yep.
So it's not most social or mental powers. Just bear that in mind. But it is social or mental powers that are basically magical attacks that just do damage.
Yep.
So,
And with Wit's Focus, you get a 5 wildcard instead of a 2.
which is huge.
That is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, even the 2 is huge. 2 points is still huge.
Yeah.
5 points is ridiculous.
And that's a wits focus, which, yes.
Plus the 3 points of healing basically means as long as you have willpower, you're in the fight. Like, because you're going to keep healing ridiculous amounts. Like, Survivor's actually very... I think Survivor's very
so
strong.
as long as you... Say it again. As long as you have willpower, you're still in the fight.
When you spend a point of willpower to retest a challenge,
Yes.
you activate this gift automatically.
Okay.
Activating that gift grants you... And also, obviously, you would also have to spend Gnosis if you...
You have to note, it's related to an incoming attack. This isn't like a new Desperate Strength, where you can just start having a way to get more...
And you would still have to spend Gnosis if you're not rank 5.
That is what Bonar's missed from Revised, is Desperate Strength, because that is...
Road was also fun. Being immune to falling touch when it was everybody's first smack, it was hilarious. Falling touch, not so much.
Alright, so let's
That's
look at
nothing
it.
new.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's... Look, I'd take a +5 wild card bonus on all of my defensive against damage
When you spend the
shoves.
willpower. And you spend the willpower, it's probably a chop that matters.
Right.
And then you take that plus the 1 point merit, plus the 1 point merit.
So if it didn't work the first time, hopefully it'll work the second time.
Right, so you get the first retest. You have
At +5.
Yeah, your first normal retest.
At +5.
And then you do your free retest.
At +5.
No, you'll get your free retest at +5. You just your willpower retest is at +5.
Yeah, I think that's actually sort of an oversight on their part. It should just be retest, not willpower retest.
No, because that's a specific retest. The 1 point merit. The 1 point merit retest.
It should just be +5 to retest your damage.
Oh, well,
It's a
that'd be nice.
defensive retest relating to incoming damage attacks, because what they sort of did is...
Well, no, I think it's intentional. I think that's very intentional though, because it doesn't give them on the normal one only when they're spending the willpower to retest, which means they're going to have to spend more willpower to retest. They'd be having less retests if they just had a 5-point defensive wildcard, which they don't get.
Well, why would you're making them spend willpower, which is negative good?
Well, no. It's when you would spend willpower anyway. This is a bonus thing. It's the same way that they work a lot of the mental defensive powers. It's like if you spend a willpower against like a mental or social
to our
effect
audience,
thing.
is anybody playing Bonar, by the way? Just throw it out there. Also, if anybody's playing Nuwisha, let me know, because we're going to be talking about them next, and I want to know if this is going to get personal, because it might.
I saw a fair number of Bonars. I feel like the Bonar vet character is kind of a thing, even though I'm not sure how non-bitten.
Oh, Isaac's watching.
How that really works. It can kind of make sense as a bitten character, but I don't know how you as a werewolf could function in the military.
Well, that's a common background thing, unless you're bitten. If you're bitten,
Right,
you're not.
now-
They finally solved it because so many players.
Well,
I said before,
they wanted a job. Be a doctor. Be a cop. Be a something. Be a veteran.
And you can't be
couldn't
those
do
things.
any of those things if you were part of the Garrett Nation because you were literally cursed. And people don't like being cursed, so now they put an alt curse. And the downside is you're the new
still
Omega.
cursed. Yeah.
Well, now you're just cursed and double cursed. So you're cursed and other werewolves don't like you. Also, no one needs no shapeshifter needs a chop to detect
Right,
you.
so stack that with Laugh of the Hyena, a mental social plus 10 wild card, and you get the willpower back.
They don't work together. Because that's only again. Well, I mean, that's his mental or social, just generally.
Yeah.
So I guess if you had both somehow, I don't know.
Laugh of the Hyena is, like, you can get that.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was confusing it with the Jabba power.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have both, then you basically have +5 to your retest, and you would have
10.
+10 against Master of Fire or Lure of Flames.
Isaac believes they don't work together. I'm not certain either way. We'd have to check. It's an interesting combination.
If it's I mean, my argument is if it's a cross chop. No, it probably shouldn't. You're just gonna end up with a full-time +5
And now
in
they're
pretty
just
much all situations,
Guys,
which is also good.
We're going to discuss auspices. There's no reason to argue over which auspice is almost as good as Philodox. Calm down. They're all equally almost as good as Philodox.
So, final thoughts on Bonar. I think it's a solid tribe. They've got an interesting story, and I think they're a great counterpoint to the Glasswalkers.
I think their crunch is pretty decent. I don't know if it's great, but
I found Glasswalker Crunch entirely underwhelming, so I think they're on par.
Well, I think their crunch is okay, but the main thing is that there's a lot of room to work with story-wise and RP-wise of being the guy behind enemy lines. You could be the saboteur.
Mm-hmm.
You can be the actual monkey wrencher. Right. There are a lot of things that you can play that are not jokes, that are deadly serious. If you want to be a Sam Spade, if you want to be a Punisher,
their new flaw?
What?
Their tribal flaw.
The other person can spend an honor or renown in a stare down to make them effectively a rank lower.
Yeah, they don't have any major downside insofar as interacting with the mortal world, or no more than anyone else does.
Yeah,
they can be rich, they can be influence characters. Your Bonar no longer has to be a shiftless homeless person.
I would love to be a Bonar and people are like, oh, you're a Bonar. It's like, yeah,
and just
like,
roll in the game like an adventure
filthy.
Power suit.
Just filthy
rich. I'm sorry, park my yacht and just abusively hurl keys at the Silver Fang, who will then immediately stare you down. But until that point,
does
it'll
kind
work
of go
pretty
against
well.
their fluff, though, that they do tend to spend their money supporting people around them. They don't hoard money. It has no attraction.
How is being a billionaire philanthropist not helping people around you?
I won the lotto, and now I'll be poor in 5 years. How long is this crime going?
That's true, and most do go into bankruptcy within 5 years of winning the lotto. But for that chronicle, I had filthy stinking
I'm
rich.
literally the MC Hammer of this cron. I am well off. I gave everybody in Oakland a job. In 5 years, I'll be broke. But that's 5 years from now.
You know, I saw the first 2/3 of the MC Hammer behind the music. It seemed like
Did
it
you
went really
really?
well for him.
Yeah,
it's a bit.
Yeah.
No, that's why I wanted to pin you on that one.
Yeah, that's good. Let's talk about Nuwisha. So, Bonars, interesting tribe. Nuwisha.
Final verdicts, thoughts.
Better than Glasswalkers.
Okay.
I put them on par with Glasswalkers, and I do think that people overlook the wild connection with the Bonars. They're very strongly wild affinity, and I think that is a cool angle with them that people often overlook. Bucky?
Yeah, between those two statements, that synthesizes mine. I agree.
Do you concur?
I do concur.
All right, let's go to Nuwisha.
Indeed.
Let's go to Nuwisha, which, and I will state this going in, are one of my least favorite Pharaoh from Revised. I am so not a fan of a group of people whose only job is to poke fun, make you think. Like, your whole thing is being a shitty ragabash. At least that's Revised. So let's see if you guys can change my mind on this one.
It'd still be a ragabash.
I'm not liking your odds.
Every story ever told is truth, but also lies. Each prank and trick
pranks and tricks. Fuck my
must
life.
have a purchase. So while in Nuwisha, the were-coyotes spend their existence bringing wisdom and knowledge to those they encounter using the mirthful brand of tutelage. Always curious and eager to explore new places and discover new things, they were the first of Gaia's children to explore the Umbra. Mischief makers and pranksters, other shapeshifters view the Nuwisha as little more than nuisances who live without rules.
There we go. Right there. That's what it is.
That is actually legitimately how they should be viewed, except they should actually be viewed with infinitely more hostility, because they make perfect infiltrators. That a fallen Nuwisha you will never see coming. You cannot see. It's like, yeah, I'm just messing around, hanging out with the Karen. Oh, pie in your face. Everybody take back some gnosis and some willpower. You're welcome, guys. And I've reported all of your names and the names of all of your families to Pentex. And you will never catch me. Because between Cuckoos and their level 5 gift, where they can just switch their affinity, a fallen Nuwisha is the most terrifying thing in the game. The fact that there might be a Nuwisha who is laudable, who walks into a hive and is like, "Hey guys, wacky times! I brought shrooms. Let's hang out with His Myconic Majesty," and then returns to a cairn with the same list, but of BSD kinfolk and all of their family members. That's frightening. But other than that, I don't really like them.
Well,
Like they have a hardcore build, but what I'm saying is their seasonal build I don't like.
All right, so give me their
hardcore
laws,
build.
because I want their fluff.
These are the laws of the Nuwisha. Let a fool die a fool's death.
Okay, that's really helpful.
It's clearly well written, and obviously the meaning is very straightforward. I don't even know what that means. I think it just means run away from every fight.
Let a fool die a fool's death means people who won't listen to you, fuck them.
Okay.
Teach those who need teaching a proper lesson.
Okay, great.
Always prank the worm.
Okay.
Right, which I've literally never seen.
Not once.
I've seen Nuwisha prank the wild, and just because it's safe, I'm gonna prank all my buddies. I'm gonna prank those Silver Fangs. I'm gonna take them down a notch. Really? You don't think your efforts might be better spent against the enemy at all?
Be subtle.
That's that one. That one will never.
Oh God! Ow!
Never.
Oh,
Never.
I remember us being very positive about Nuwisha last time we talked about that.
no, because their hardcore build is great.
It's great, but that's not what
I
people
would
are
build
playing.
that character.
There are people who are literally going to be pie flinging. Who, well,
No.
figurative,
That's
because
fine.
they can't afford to pies.
You don't. First of all, you can still be a comedy Nuwisha. Just don't be a prank your friends in the wild Nuwisha. You can still be like, your face is a litany violation, and then give everybody back gnosis and willpower. I think that's absolutely fine. That is a great build.
I've had a few drinks, and I'm back at like Misanthrope Iggy, and I'm really
Misanthrope Iggy?
Yeah.
Is there a non-misanthrope Iggy?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
I feel like the old Ren and Stimpy. They split Ren into evil Ren and hideously evil Ren, or what was it? Evil Ren and apathetic Ren. Like there was no good half.
The thing is, all right, I could see Nuwishes being great characters, but I fear that all we'll see in the wild is caricatures.
Think, then act.
That you can put that would be subtle.
Yeah,
Put that in an envelope, mail it to yourself, then hit it with a hammer.
So put that in Latin.
What's the last
and
one?
tattoo it on
That
your
was
back
the
of your
last one.
hand.
Was it?
Yep.
So, all right. So, what happens when you're not subtle?
Well, they're not very good at combat.
And this is something that we're going to need to talk about when it comes to their.
Well, they don't have rage.
They don't have rage. They are bad at fighting.
They do regenerate 1 health level per turn as a replacement for it.
Which everybody with rage does anyway.
Yep. They also they're also immune to silver.
They are immune to silver.
And they're not under the curse.
Right. They get a bunch of little fluff benefits. The downside is they don't have rage. They need to get their baby chaos mechanics just to get really rage actions. And even then, I think that they have to be social or mental. Which, I mean, that's a feature and debug. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. It's another
because they
action.
seriously shouldn't be doing anything fizz.
Right. They can... They're just... Yeah, they're not great at combat.
Well, they're great in a group in combat. Like
Okay, yes, that is true. With a pack, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
But alone? I mean, your Nuwisha isn't
Don't
a
be
badass.
a Gallagher Nuwisha. That shit is hilarious. The thing is, no, I wouldn't have a problem with a Gallagher Nuwisha that was active. And this is something that is not specific to my dislike for Nuwisha. It's specific to my dislike for trickster archetypes. It holds true for a lot of the way a lot of the people play Ragabash. It holds true for Nuwisha. It holds true for a lot of the way I thought and I saw people saying that they were going to play the Foxes. You can be helpful in a prankster. Pranksters can be a team player, but I don't see it often.
Well, right, because there's different archetypes. Like,
First of all, the idea of being a team player is a very new concept in the Nuwisha. I mean, it's not something. Joining werewolf packs and joining the nation is not something that is really part of their history.
Not all trickster archetypes are created equally. All right. These aren't Loki tricksters. These are Coyote tricksters.
Yes.
These tricksters are supposed to solely just be teaching life lessons. Now, I know that there's some.
Right now, I'm imagining a coyote with Johnny Cash's voice teaching me something important about my soulmate.
Sure, and I'm sure there's people who
I mean, if you
are
actually
into
read
Loki
the stories,
also.
if you read the actual stories from the
teaching
Southwest
lessons.
about Coyote, he's awesome. Coyote is great. He's subtle.
He's
closer
to like a Zen master teacher of like, see, and now the scales fall from your eyes because you get it now.
And if you read a lot of the stories, it doesn't end well for Coyote.
Yeah, but I can't imagine Coyote putting a pie in someone's face. Is what I'm saying.
No.
That's not Coyote style.
No.
Oh, I would make that coyote. I ended up not making that coyote.
You would, but you also wear that mustache in public.
The warder saw your dead mother on the bond, said break it up. Like, no, I only did half that joke yet.
Yes.
I need the setup. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that pill's working.
It's not for the pain part.
No, just for the cognitive dissonance.
All right, 1 point merit. Trickster's Blessing. Once per game session, you spend a standard action to declare fair escape. This cannot be contested.
Yeah, that's.
I will eat those hot peppers if I feel like it, Colin, and tricksters do not rock.
The flavor text on this makes me a little sad. Right. Jumping off a cliff, hiding behind a sapling, or even vanishing into thin air are all ways you can escape your foes.
Yes, you're a cartoon.
Wily. Yeah.
You are Wile E. Coyote.
You know what? If I were going to do a cartoon way to disappear, I would literally carry around an emergency blanket and just be like this. Drop
no,
it and be gone.
you don't have to Chloricon out. I would have the bucket of paint and then just go through the tunnel. And then when somebody tries to jump through it as well, thinking it's a portal, then they bonk themselves.
And this is why I hate tricksters, because all I had to do was make one little reference to it, and you went full-on Looney Tunes on me.
Yeah.
Intrepid Explorer.
I didn't write that. They wrote that.
Intrepid Explorer is awesome. You've learned to navigate the Umbra and you have a deep familiarity with many of its locations. You can enter or leave any of the Umbra realms, Malpheus, even if you don't meet the qualifications to do so, Malpheus, including lack of permission from the realm's ruler, Malpheus. Incidentally, additionally, you may opt to ignore any one of the realm's mechanics of your choice, Malpheus.
What about silver?
Wait,
you're not affected by silver anyway.
What is the limit of the realms?
There isn't.
Oh, okay, so it's not just deep Umbra realms?
No.
Okay, so you can also just go to the Shadowlands. You're like, what up, Striders? Just passing through because I'm in irrelevant non-canon land as far as this.
It doesn't waive the quest requirements to go there. It's just that while you're there, you're more awesome.
Yeah, you're just saying I'm not affected by that.
And if you're hell diving,
wait. So what this means is I can't help you, but I can make fun of you struggling while we're there. If we go to like Erebus and everybody's swimming in silver, and I'm just like, this is boring. You're not helping anybody. You're just kind of being a dick while there.
On the other hand, if somebody ever had to make a snatch and grab in Malpheus, you'd send the Nuwisha. The only people you'd send.
Maybe a team of Nuwisha and a Korax?
Well, no, you don't want to send the Korax because you...
I didn't say the Korax has to come back. First of all, not every mission needs to be survived. It's not epic if everybody comes back.
You know what? Yes. Sometimes you gotta die.
Yeah, especially if we're gonna rescue.
This is not Werewolf the Happy.
Yeah, we're gonna rescue Sabine from Malpheus because she's been kidnapped. Not everyone.
Stop giving people goddamn ideas. You leave my queen alone.
And then there's Button.
I must have had some sort of seizure or stroke because I do not remember this at all.
Well, it's good. Spend 3 points in Gnosis and spend an hour in meditation.
No.
You can now change your affinity between Weaver, Wild, and Worm. It allows you to enter the Umbra as long as you had the appropriate merits or the Worm affinity quality. In addition, if you choose to take on Worm Taint, you appear to be in the 4th stage of Worm Taint, but do not suffer any of the condition's ill effects. This allows you to convincingly infiltrate a hive or pass yourself up as a Nakomi, a corrupted Nuwisha. Of course, your corrupted Nuwisha friend's doing the same thing.
Right.
If you retain this Worm Taint for more than a week, you risk retaining your body and taking on the attributes of a BSD. You gain Worm Taint normally while this Merit's power is active.
Whatever. You can have
more
powers while your affinity is different. That's all I read.
You can't trust them.
You do know that at that level they get Fomori powers, right?
It says right on there, yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
If you Worm Taint for more than a week, you risk retaining your body and taking on the physical attribute. Yeah. So yeah.
So why would you do it for ever less than a week? I know what they were going for, but I'm seeing it quite the other way. You'll lose them when you shift back. This is why it's not like, oh, they're a tolerated nuisance. Nuwisha are terrifying because you can never, ever trust them. It's sort of the downside of the 1 point merit for Shadow Lords.
But it's times 1,000.
But we're right. It's off the charts.
Here's the thing, but you don't trust a Shadow Lord. You don't expect a Shadow Lord to teach you a lesson. And as anybody who's actually a teacher in real life will tell you, that at a certain point, teaching requires a level of trust. If you can't trust the person teaching you a lesson, you have to. When you're teaching me something, I have to believe that you're actually trying to improve me. Otherwise, it just comes off as antagonistic.
Yeah.
And there's only one response to antagonism from someone who doesn't regen.
I will say
they do regen, just slowly.
And that's not enough, and they don't have rage.
Yeah, however, they can just fair escape. I mean,
yeah,
that's kind of their thing. But, yeah, what should be terrifying is when a Nuwisha shows up at your game, and this is a little metagamey, but if they're an NPC Nuwisha...
How is that metagamey? Because in the history of this game, in the history of all of Garu, at a certain point, there had to be a Nakomi who's like, dude, I'm totes of the wild.
Yes.
That has happened.
Oh, absolutely, and it should happen.
I don't have a problem being like, you can trust this.
No. I'm not saying that's metagaming. What I'm saying is the metagaming aspect is as long as it's a PC Nuwisha, people aren't going to bother to check. Because they don't. The same reason that when people sort of got corrupted.
We realize that there's a whole faction that's not loving them right now, right?
Yeah, no, I get they can get some flack from the Sanctum.
Do you know what?
Who will point out things like, you don't know if he's lying.
Well, you do kind of need lore to know that.
The other thing,
they're only saved by ignorance.
The other thing about the Nuwisha is it allows you to basically, you
can cross wherever you want.
No, that's not my point. If you want to play an antagonistic character and don't want to take the 6-point merit, you can just play a Nuwisha.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which is fucked.
There's only like 3 classes that can be antagonists right now. And unfortunately, everybody should see them coming. If you see a pack that is an Ananasi, a Nuwisha, and a Shadow Lord, they're like, yeah, we're
I want to see this pack.
We're in a pack.
That is the best pack ever.
We're from Spokane or some shit. I don't know.
Say those things again.
Shadow Lord.
Wait, no. So
Ananasi,
Nuwisha,
Shadow Lord. Oh yeah.
I'm just saying.
Oh, if we want to make a pack.
I'm just saying. Good for events.
If they ever see us, if you guys out in TV land ever see us at an event, we're all in a pack. They should murder us immediately.
Well, the funny thing is, I would play the character completely white hat, but I would never be sure if I was full of shit.
Like, I don't
as
even
a
know
player,
if I'm tricking anybody.
One of our viewers is a teacher and says that the students do not care how much you know until you prove how much you care. They have to trust you. And that's the problem with prankster characters. I can't know that if the life lesson you're giving me right now is the lesson you want me to absorb, or if I'm going to get a fucking pie in the face. So we're not friends.
Well, or more importantly, they like make your life miserable. First of all, again, they're supposed to prank the worm. Mm-hmm. It's in their own
but
thing.
They're not going to, because the people they interact the most with is you.
Right.
So they're going to prank you.
If they end up
the
pranking
second you raise your hand, they're going to be like, dude, it's just a prank. Why aren't you being cool?
Right. With their whole, like, teach people lessons that needs to be taught, fine. But if you're being tormented and they're like,
I love you.
And the moral of the story is, you should really appreciate what you have. Because it could be gone. Be like, motherfucker, we get Hirano. I know that. Like, I don't need you to teach me these things.
It's like that episode of Archer. I don't know if you saw it. The one where it's like...
I think I've seen all of them.
Yeah, where he leaves the bike out and the mother pretends it's stolen and he's like, that teaches him a lesson not to leave his bike out. And then Lana's like, so when'd you give the bike back? She's like, give the bike back? Exactly.
Why would they do that?
And eventually it stops being a trick to teach them something and it's just cruelty.
You're an abusive parent.
You're just being cruel.
Longtime listeners will recognize that this is pretty much the opposite of what we said to Nuwisha last time.
Oh, that's true.
No.
There's almost no way of proving that.
No. They're great. You could do great things with them. But having seen some of the play go down, I don't see them being used as a pro.
Or effectively.
I see them being used as PCs who want to be antagonistic. Prove me wrong.
I don't think antagonistic.
Prove me wrong. I would love to be proved wrong.
It's a very safe antagonism when all you're doing is messing with other tribes.
It's not as safe as you think.
Well, maybe not in this chronicle, but it was viewed. It's a pretty safe way to be like, oh, you might get yelled at, and you'll have to like show
last cron, it wasn't because people were getting gacked left, right, and center. And this
Nuwisha were getting gacked left, right, and center.
No,
I don't recall any
because there were barely any Nuwisha. But there was a Ragabash who came up with the same. I'm here pointing out the flaws in your plan, and had legitimate points, and ended up getting gutted like a trout. And in this game, where you have less
That's not why they got. That is not why they got. They were given like 3 opportunities to. You know what? Doesn't matter. We are going to disagree on how that went down. They could have just apologized.
Possum's wisdom. You dead. You look dead. Last first scene. You did.
Are there NPC bad guys who don't remove the heads off of everybody? Or are they just... You tell me how they can possibly be, in the world of darkness, that lazy that they don't either, A, remove your head, or B, collect your body for either its totally functional skin for their skin dancer army, or for biological experiments from Magadon Pharmaceuticals.
Or hoping they can bring you back. They can just bring you back. Right. They can hope to bring you back.
Or this concept that playing dead should ever work in any scenario is insane.
Tell you what, as a storyteller, I would let it work until the first time a PC started lopping off the heads of enemies. And then the enemies would learn. Good point. We should start lopping off the heads of enemies.
I do not believe in writing NPCs who are that
lazy,
criminally stupid.
Lazy?
No, yeah, well, lazy, walk into combat naked with nothing but one weapon, like no items, no equipment, no written up gifts, no background, no plan. They're just there for you to kill, like orcs in a D&D campaign. Like, oh, it's a bunch of Fomori, you're hanging out playing dice. Just XP, CR2, have at it.
They all draw their one handgun with no specialty ammo, and they stand in a line perfectly.
Right, and they all all the extra ones stand around because they don't have any social or mental powers.
Coyote's laughter. Coyote's laughter.
The reason to play Nuwisha, in my opinion, even though it's not playing it great.
Alright, both you and a number of friendly targets you choose up to the number of dots you possess in empathy can receive one of the following. Each beneficiary chooses their own benefit. Decompress. Burn off 2 rage traits. Gain a point in neurosis. Gain a dot of willpower.
In case you're wondering, I'm looking for what to get drunker on.
Immune to wound penalties for an hour. Or
what the fuck is that?
You can regain 2 health levels. Just you.
Yep.
So this is your candy cannon. Coyote's laughter.
Yeah. And
this gift exists solely so you don't lop the heads off of every Nuwisha you see.
Because they are
you
candy cannon.
You can give me willpower back, like.
Well, it's also that you can do it for they describe it as like really trying things, and like it lets people emotionally decompress. It'll be like, oh, I'm really sorry about your tribe mate dying, and then they make a fart noise, and magically everybody feels better. Thanks, Nuwisha.
There's also a secondary way aside from cracking a joke. You may activate this gift by relenting to a challenge after your opponent has spent a point of willpower to retest.
That's a dick move. That's literally do a dick move. Then give them a willpower.
It's
back.
great on offense because like I shoot you, right? They lose.
No,
it's
only the defender. It's only when you're a defender. Somebody's trying to hit you.
So when you're so you just let them hit you.
Yeah,
that's pretty funny.
If you win the initial chop and they retest, then you do it.
It's much easier to tell a fart joke.
There's so many jokes. I mean, not all of them are appropriate, especially for MES, but there are still a lot. There's a lot of room
there are
for
plenty
good
of jokes that don't include rape. Calm the fuck down.
No, I'm not saying that they're just inappropriate.
Walking away
jokes.
after having won, backing out of the fray.
They're just inappropriate. Doesn't just mean that type of inappropriate.
I'm looking at meat and cupcakes. I really don't care what you have to say.
Plus, specializing humor to specifically the 12 tribes. I was trying out one Nuwisha joke. I don't know if it'll work. Should I tell the audience? So you basically walk up to somebody in a convention as a Nuwisha, and you find a silent strider.
Iggy is at home. He doesn't have to worry about anyone driving him home.
Yeah, this is his house. That's why I asked him for a glass.
Wait, what?
Well, I'm not driving you home, Iggy. You're home. There's no reason to go to my car.
Who is driving Iggy home for serious? Well, I mean, you could show up. I'll walk out, get in the car. We can go around the block, and you can let me back out if you want. Is that Vin? Vin, you've been here often enough to know this is my shitty cabinet.
It's a break front.
Your knowledge of shitty furniture boggles and astonishes.
There's another thing.
I love you, Vin. But anyway, watch me get hammered.
About the so you find a silent strider at a convention and you're like, listen, I was talking to somebody on the bond and they said you're really disrespecting Owl, and you're going for them asking, who said that, and you're like, what, you're doing it again, like who, and you just keep doing it until they're like, oh, it's an Owl joke, and then you're like, enjoy your gnosis, and then just flee, just fair escape immediately. And I was trying to write at least 1 or 2 jokes per tribe, and then I was like, I
don't care
already
enough.
have 2 characters, and I don't have any Wishas. This is somebody else's job.
So, while both Bucky and Brian are trying to make better physical specimens of themselves, I am going to be eating a cupcake that has a fragging Oreo on top
God
of it.
damn it.
Because
God
this
damn it,
is
Iggy.
America.
Duplicity.
America.
I haven't eaten
Duplicity.
since I became an adult.
Spendinosis. You get a rage action, but you can only use it for social and mental actions.
It's baby chaos mechanics.
If you're wits focused, like everyone is, you can get a second rage action for
Well,
another 2 points of gnosis.
I'm not.
I am changing my argument.
I'm not wits focused.
The best focus
I'm
is to
wits
be
focused.
intelligence focused so that you can be wits focused.
Oh, for
Because you need intelligence to get the extra focus that you're gonna get when you get Spirit Vessel to get wits when you build your character. You're welcome, people out there in TV land. I just made all the Garrett Nation smarter.
What are you doing with my Wendy's cup?
Whatever. It's diet.
all right.
Close enough.
Umbral Key. You can lock down the Umbra for a 2-mile radius. I know you can open a portal too. The portal is great. The portal is awesome. Lockdown is where it's at.
Now, what is the? Is there an
I just
opposing
imagined
shop
that-
to get through?
No.
I just imagine that one Nuwisha who thinks he's a fighter who goes in the
System.
middle of a hive and says that no one in the hive can leave. I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
You need to plug in.
That's fine. Calm down.
I will say this: it doesn't. It specifically doesn't stop Sound Striders from going to the Shadowlands, or any other sort of pseudo realms. But that is huge.
The real question that all our fans want to know is where those cupcakes came from, and all 12 of them came from Dessert Deli, along with my Oreo cheesecake that I have in my fridge.
You really like Oreos.
Oreos are a thing that's
I mean, you have an Oreo cake and you have multiple Oreo cupcakes.
I actually have 6 different kinds of cupcake.
No, but I'm just right. But you only have one kind of cake, and the confluence is.
My mom wanted a cheesecake, and I felt like going overboard, so I got. She says I needed a slice of cheesecake, so I got her an entire Oreo cupcake cheesecake.
How did she feel about it? I mean, she's from the land of being able to go to juniors.
So she had one slice of it, she loved it, and then when she was on the way to the train, she realized she forgot it, to which I laughed maniacally because I knew the whole time.
Man, you guys make each other saltier.
She's
Trolling
where
is
I
genetic.
got. She's where I got it from.
All right, level 5, wicked sense of humor. Basically, baby brain eating. Pick a skill. Good job. They
You need to unpack that more. There's not a lot of
Expend
people.
1 point of Gnosis and use your standard action to initiate an opposed challenge. If you succeed, name the skill of your choice. Your opponent must tell you her total permanent dots in that skill. If your target is a stock NPC, that storyteller informs you whether or not the NPC has that skill spec.
Yeah, either.
You
two
may
or
then
four.
choose to take that skill from your target, causing her to lose all dots in that skill, or in the case of a stock NPC, lose that spec. You gain 1 bonus dot in that skill, which can exceed your maximum possible dots. So what you do is you run around with dodge at 5, and then you take other people's dodge, and you make your dodge 6 every time.
More importantly, you're taking their dodge.
And
or if you really want to be offensive, you're like, you know, when you're fighting bad guys and somebody's like, it's the dude with the skull staff. Yeah, I'm taking his occult.
He's holding a skull staff.
Good luck with now.
No. What you do is you always have 2 Nuwisha.
Oh
One of them takes his offensive skill, and the other one takes his defensive skill, and then they sip margaritas while whatever other pharaoh or Garu they have around does what they need to do.
Escape. They're like, I'm out.
Yeah, because it goes with you. It
For
goes
whatever. What's the
with you.
duration of the power?
The duration.
Till sunset.
Oh my god.
That's just. What if you do it?
Sunrise. Sorry.
That's
Sunrise.
That's
So what if you-
100 forevers.
What
in game terms.
what if you do that immediately after sunrise?
That is a month.
Last until the next morning.
so
that is a month of
23 hours.
Sundays.
So 23 hours and 59 minutes in combat rounds.
Yes, sir.
So all attacks happen at dawn.
Yes, sir.
There.
Exceptional success. Instead of gaining 1 dot, you replace your current value with their permanent value.
Now, is it cheating on a duel when before the duel
Yes.
you pay
before you even say anything.
the Nuwisha out of
Yes.
the goodness of his heart steals the dodge of the person you're fighting on the mound? Can they show up to the challenge and be like, I can't participate in this challenge because I got mugged by Nuwisha this morning?
Here's what you do. You have
Prove I hired them.
You have 2 Nuwisha. One of them steals the offensive skill of player A, and then the other one steals the offensive skill of player 2, and they both just
just limply slap each other.
for the next 3 hours while everyone else is bored and goes away. And my beard is getting incredibly gray. What the shit? I look like
Did that just happen?
Oh, that's why I shave.
I look.
And also, this is not.
I look like a fat Dominican Racial Ghul. This
This
needs
is
to stop.
This is just for men. I mean, the mustache is like
You
completely
know, I'm older
lost
than you
color.
guys, and I'm not going gray
You're
at all.
older
except
than
for,
me by
gray
like
hairs.
7 months. He's 7 months older than me.
Are we going to compare hairlines then?
Oh, Jesus.
Well, I mean...
This happened in like 4 days in 2000.
Well, I have a bald spot. That's
Yeah,
what
okay, I'm
hairlines.
about to say, I was like, you're both really bald. I'm not balding.
You tell yourself that's
They
weird.
keep saying this. I've got a full head of hair. It's
Yeah,
all
I'm sure.
the way
It's
around.
on your back, though.
Yeah, I'm not balding. It happened in like a week. It was literally like
They're
a week. It's
actually
like, oh, okay, this is what it looks
recently
like now.
depilated my back.
So you don't even have that
now
full
have
head
a
of hair.
She did
smooth
what?
back.
She shaved his back.
De-haired me.
She
for-
flensed him. Oh no, that's blubber. Never mind.
How did you
I'm
switch seats with
super
Brian?
mean.
Get back over there.
Whenever I'm next to Bucky, I get super mean.
Which is weird because we're
More
incredibly
like a
close.
bulking seasoned Bane. I love you, Xander. Like that was really flattering. I appreciate that.
Final thoughts on Nuwisha, boys.
They're coming out of the box great, and it's up to their player base to either sink or swim with them.
Well, yeah, their mechanics are great. It's the question of whether the players can sell it. It's a role-playing challenge for the players. If they can pull it off, the game gives them all the materials they need mechanically to be awesome.
It's the grand issue of Nuwisha, Kitsune, Setites, to a lesser extent Giovanni, is can you play a character who's denouement?
Who said Hydrox for life? Forget this entire podcast.
I don't think they make those anymore. Didn't they go out of business?
Whatever.
I
I'm
remember
drinking.
hearing that.
Drink
as,
more.
as I was drinking my RC Cola, I heard that our Hydrox went out of business.
Drink more mead. Care less.
All right, I think now we're going to move on to our next section, which is sort of a continuing segment, but today we're going to talk about something very specific and something a little bit uncomfortable.
What?
Building a better community.
Ah, shit. You had to wait till I was good and soused before doing
Hey,
this.
you got a point on this one.
Is there any particular flavor of this we want to tackle the first time we open with this segment? But let's deal with something simple, like racism or sexism.
Oh.
Ow.
I'm really not feeling much in the way
It's
of pain
okay,
right now.
buddy. It's okay.
No, it's much higher. It's behind the scapula. A little higher.
This is podcast gold.
Oh my god.
All right, so here's the question. I'm gonna leave it up to our audience. Do you guys want?
appreciate
Yeah. Do you guys want to discuss something incredibly simple, like how props can help immersion, or do you want to just go wholehearted into something local that we had that was discussing predatory people in LARP using it as a camouflage? I'm gonna let you pick.
I was gonna say while they're thinking about that, the thing I was saying is earlier that article was like, I think 19 things you can do to improve
Oh, I love that article.
gaming via
You know what?
something
We can just
with
bring that
sexual
up, and
harassment.
we can bring that up, and we can credit the daggone writer.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, it's on the group. It was shared, so I mean they've got full props in there. And while I was saying there's a lot to discuss with the merits and problems of each of the arguments, but one of them stands out.
Why don't
I think
for
above
people
the rest.
who haven't seen it, why don't we just give some background on that?
Okay, so I'm not going to name names because this is all alleged, and I don't really want to be that guy.
What are we talking about?
And we had an issue with our gamer where it is believed to be that a person who was in our local gaming group has been...
But not MES.
But not MES. Not MES.
Or even One World.
Or even One World
Almost.
has been arrested for something that I would call a sex crime.
It was absolutely. It was arrested on several, federally arrested on several crimes like that, luring a minor.
And that started a whole discussion about how local gamers who are overwhelmingly female have felt uncomfortable in our local game, and how a lot of our male players and a lot of our male staff and all of our staff in general has just essentially failed them historically.
Yeah,
and I think that's fair to say.
It's one of the things that came up on Facebook, and
This is an incredibly uncomfortable subject,
Yeah,
and I will not blame you if you tune out.
No,
But I can't be the guy who doesn't say something.
people were talking about what we could have done. I was here until 2003. I didn't have a lot of exposure to him. I heard some rumors. I then left for the better part of a decade. Then once I returned, as far as I can tell, he wasn't in any of my gaming circles. Never joined any network games. I never LARPed with him ever again. The only time I saw him was he was smoking cigarettes or playing tabletop games. Now that isn't to say that he may have still been playing in some of the local troop games. I don't know. I think maybe those games could have done more to protect their player base from him, and generally could have. It's just, I guess my assumption was something happened that solved that problem because I didn't see him anymore at games. You know, he was just doing his own thing. Maybe somebody had yelled at him.
Well, needing to protect players from this sort of bullshit is one of the big reasons we left our previous gaming organization too. Was just like,
well, One World's response to having convicted sex offenders running whole clans
at the time.
major
We don't know
events.
what's happened after we left. I have no idea what's.
Well, I
happened
know
after.
some of what happened after they left is desperately trying to cover up and keep the club from looking bad under this weird fiction they have that as long as they're not incorporated, they're not an organization. It's something weird. Not. It's definitely very. As a lawyer, there definitely should be starting every sentence with "I am not a lawyer" and then just say a bunch of stuff that isn't true. They just fundamentally didn't understand what those terms mean as legal terms versus terms of art. And in any event, it was repugnant. They weren't doing anything about it other than covering it up and telling people not to talk about it, which you can't do. If people travel to games, they bring their kids. These are things that need to be addressed.
I'm just looking at his hairline right now, and I'm seeing right through it.
I didn't say my hair wasn't thinning. I'm growing older, but I don't have the power down that you guys.
So it's fine. So, and I'm not. This isn't about him or what's allegedly him because I don't know for a fact. I didn't see a picture. I don't know if the accusation is true. I don't want to give the federal government or any government the ability to just with an accusation destroy a person.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. The point is that the player base has been making comments and letting it be known, especially the female half of the player base, right, that they have felt uncomfortable about this guy for what is essentially 2 decades, and not enough was done.
What I didn't know is, one, apparently there were people who didn't believe those women. I thought they were just I thought it was just
this is less about you specifically.
No, I know. Absolutely.
This is not about you. So let's.
No, but I'm saying that as when someone seems phased out like that, right, and leaves these organizations, you don't. It has to do with what staff knows, and what actually gets all the way up to staff, which is one of the sort of repeated problems with this particular list. But go on.
All right, so this is less about what the people on the screen in front of you or locally. This is a springboard into a conversation, and the conversation is just something that has been festering in LARP communities, gaming communities, and it's always been covered or discussed in that a lot of us are socially awkward. A lot of us have difficulty communicating our desires and feelings to other people. So there seems to be this unspoken and even spoken belief that we need to ignore social faux pas from our fellow gamers because we're all bad at this and this is our only outlet, and since we're outcast from everywhere else, we can't cast out people within us. Yeah. And that's essentially bullshit.
Yeah, the argument is basically just that the Overton window of the gaming community is just broader. Is that,
define your terms.
If you don't know what an Overton window is generally in a political sense, there are things that you can discuss, and then radiating out in both political sort of directions are things which become sort of less and less acceptable until they're either repugnant or absurd, or if you say those things, you've killed your political career. For example, Trump's current tenure in administration has definitely broadened the Overton window of what a president can say without being just drummed out of office.
But let's keep it off politics.
No. Well, I think that's a pretty apolitical statement. But
you do.
The gaming Overton window is we basically a lot of people here aren't social butterflies and they're not dripping with savoir-faire. So the acceptability of what we sort of encourage other people to put up with
or allow
it is generally pitched as being broader.
I was incorrect. You were right the first time. What we encourage what are marginalized or possibly victimized groups to put up with in an effort to maintain some sort of grouping. It's I know it seemed like he was attacking you, but could you not make a thing of this because there's only 16 to 16 of us? If we go down to 15, we don't have a LARP. And
that's so bad.
And it should be the other way, where we go out of our way to make sure that everybody is comfortable, to make sure that we have people so that we can have a LARP.
Right, in the
it
gaming
should be
community.
it should be diametrically opposed to the previous belief where it's like we have to put up with a lot. It's like no, we have to protect what might be victimized groups because then we can get more people. I never got the argument where it's like, listen, a lot of us are ostracized, and since we're ostracized, we have to put up with weird shit. It's like, no, a lot of us are ostracized, and since a lot of us are ostracized, we know what it's like to be put upon. We should accept less putting upon of victimized groups because then we can draw in more of those people and have a broader gaming base. Mm-hmm. Like there have been games I have been in where there have been 3 females. There have been games where I've been in where I am the only person of color. Mm-hmm. And then when I'm in those games, when I say things like, I kind of want to play a Get Offenders, they're like, really? Why? And I'm like, you're going to have to unpack that. And then it gets super awkward and everybody knows why.
Yeah. Well, there's...
It's like, why don't you want to play a La Sombra? And I'm like, why should I?
There's been a lot of games, especially whenever traveling, that I've... As a Jewish person who games, like, I basically find, even at a convention-sized level, like, the 2 other Jewish people, and then we sort of commiserate with each other over like some of the insane shit that we hear. It does happen.
So I posted an article on the Werewolf unofficial Facebook group, and some of the stuff it has. I highly recommend you read that one and the other one where I posted about the sexual harassment one. I don't expect everybody to agree with every point. I don't agree with every point, but every one of these points is a jumping off point for discussion. And where there is like who was it that said sunlight is something?
It was Brandeis, and I quoted. I responded to this off thread to you guys in a very long post, and I was like, that's not really appropriate for the MES thing because I really sort of dug in there and wanted to unpack things, and I can get there eventually. But the one on this list I really like is 15, which is be a paragon of virtue.
Let's go to 15. I'm just scrolling really fast.
Some of these are really great.
To be fair, I posted this on a group for several. I'm in several different LARPing organizations. I hit people with foam. I hit people with rattan, though not often enough. I hit people with rock, paper, scissors way too often. And like I posted on several groups, and some of them led me to very weird responses. And the thing that came up in my foam group is that number 7, which you see on your screen in front of you, is, and the guy said literally, it is all of Vampire the Masquerade.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of that. And there was a lot of likes, and I got personal messages about how they agree, but they don't feel like liking it publicly, even on a foam group, about how predators use the alibi of roleplay to do harm.
Well, that's why
it's a very short blurb, and every one of these blurbs has a pledge afterwards where. And I don't agree with all the blurbs, and I don't agree with all the pledges. But this one is something I like. I pledge not to use my character to cause another player to feel off or out of game in our parlance. Out of game uncomfortable. And that's something that we should all... And that's, I think, the basis of the MES sexual assault background ban.
Yeah.
Which I know that there were some people who were against, and they thought it was limiting their story choices. There's some... If you're okay with it, or you feel like it limits your story and you want to be able to tell that story, there are troop games and you can do that. But there are some people who that story means that they cannot play. And and much like we had a discussion about props being mandatory.
Yeah, LARP requires costume, that whole thing.
That
for me, it's less about the term costume, more about requires. If somebody's like, well, I'm playing a Malkavian serial rapist, and I need that for my story.
Get another character.
Get another character, because that's going to exclude more people from a game than your happiness at frittering about with your puerile interest has very little bearing on a shared storytelling game.
You know what? I won't even call it puerile. I'm like, it's the World of Darkness. That's a story that could and should be told. However,
write it in your novel.
However, stories that could and should be told that require a degree of sensitivity and consent need to be played in smaller games. There's some things you cannot do nationally. Not even troops. Yeah. Not even troops. A character like that absolutely could be played at a tabletop with your 5 friends who completely understand where you're trying to go with it and what you're trying to explore.
Yeah.
And there's a level of intimacy there, too, which you can't have...
With 2,000 people playing in, like, Werewolf?
Yeah.
I mean, it also just assumes a level of trust that I don't think is there.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that, Isaac, and I'd like to thank you for bringing that up. You know, we're not gonna get to that in this. Isaac made a comment about the fetishization of POC culture in RP, and I don't think we're going to get into that in this section, but this is going to be a recurring segment.
Minority cultures.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what he said.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to get into that in a different one, and we might invite a couple of guest speakers for that one. But yeah, completely, Isaac, +1.
See, this is a good example of something I absolutely agree with in just about every way, except for their pledge. I pledge not to use my character to cause another player to feel off-game uncomfortable. That sounds reasonable. However, STs are predatory too, and absolutely can be. And some of these things are just ignorant of some of the other problems. Like, it's not just a player problem. It can also very well be a staff. They pretty much have things. There are problem players, and there's irresponsible staff. And it sort of repeatedly ignores the reality that there's problem staff
because
and irresponsible players.
Because if you are the kind of person who likes to abuse other people, then what you go for immediately is a position of power. And in a game, the position of power is VST storytelling.
And the worst thing is if you're in a gaming group that only has a couple people who will run the game, if you desperately want to play a certain kind of LARP, and there's only one guy who's going to run it in your area, and it's Creep Town, and he's the mayor, and it can be a real problem, like a serious problem. And so when I'm complaining about this list, I don't want people to think that I think harassment is good or anything like that. My issues with it are generally what I perceive as some of its points of naivete. Like, there are problem staff. There can be problems at any level of staff. I'm also very much against anonymity and for public reporting because it talks about missing stairs, but then it also kind of tries to cut that salami really thin, where it's also protecting people's...
Fuck, I want telling you right now.
Right, it's also trying to protect people's anonymity, and, you're supposed to take second or third hand, I was going to say the term hearsay, but, rumor mill stuff, and then staff should act on that if they're going to be responsible staff, and then you have to report your staff, but you should also never ask for more information. And the MES handbook doesn't do that. If you're harassed, just stop, say no, get an adult, or get a cord immediately. Log it, because it continues being a missing stair until there is a public element. And while I completely agree with the things like support people so that they're not harassed and they don't face backlash, and so is the MES handbook. It's like that's absolute. Not only they point out that there can be illegalities there. And that it absolutely goes against the handbook. They shouldn't face retaliation for coming forward with such accusations, nor should they. But there should be public investigations, and it stays a missing stair as long as everything is kept sort of. They use the term confidential, and they imply that there's some sort of privilege between gamers and their STs, which is absolutely nonsense. But confidentiality, I can unpack that into a legal discussion about duties owed, but. Most importantly, it stays a missing stair until everybody knows it's happened. Person X sexually harassed person Y. Even if you want to use the term allegedly. It happened in the middle of a con. Staff said, all right, no more. You're not gaming right now. We're taking a cool-off period, whatever the handbook requires.
Do you know how I'd... Jumping back to number 7 for a second.
Because it's my favorite.
Do you know how I would modify number 7?
No.
I would pledge not to use my character to cause another player to feel...
I was going to win this.
Yes. Unconsensually off-game uncomfortable. I desperately enjoy the feeling of being made uncomfortable by a character. That is something I look for. I like having my boundaries pushed, and I like pushing people's boundaries in a way that's safe and controlled in the gaming environment.
I was going to go somewhere else with that.
Well, I think they
let me finish my point. So, I think making someone uncomfortable... If that's what they know what they're signing up for.
Yeah.
If you're going to be pushing boundaries and the player knows you're going to be pushing boundaries and everybody's cool with it, I think being uncomfortable in and of itself isn't a thing.
It can be a goal state.
It can be a goal state because role-playing allows you to explore things you can't do normally. However, it's making someone feel non-consensually uncomfortable. Like somebody didn't want to be in this uncomfortable scene, didn't sign up for it, doesn't want to be in that scene. Things are getting creepy, they're uncomfortable. Absolutely, that is not cool.
I will tell you how I will take. I take a different.
Can I just say subtextually, one of the issues there is this whole article's only talking about sexual harassment. So I feel like they didn't feel the need to expand it to just include that, but I think they mean unconsensually, sexually uncomfortable, because that's what the whole article is about.
That's a better adjective.
The realms of uncomfortableness that you're exploring are themes like violence, family, loyalty, and all the other things that make werewolf great. And those can all be incredibly uncomfortable, but I don't think any of them fall into sort of this.
I think one of the greater points in this article, and I'm gonna mention the writer's name later. One of the better points in this article is your experience is not everyone's experience, and I can't stress that enough.
Oh yeah, please.
I'm 5'8", 5'9". You know, I'm not tall, but I'm 300 pounds. I'm really I have a big presence. So my experience with being uncomfortable in a sexual fashion or with what's going on is very often like, oh, that would suck if that happened to someone else. Like that, I can't really picture that happening to me.
Right. Well, especially about like things like sexual harassment and stuff.
Like these are things that happen to people, but generally do not. And I understand and I empathize, but they have not happened to me generally. So I have trouble internalizing how affected some people can be, and I think that's a problem that a lot of, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, a lot of the male gamers have, is like, oh yeah,
he never sexually harassed me, thus he doesn't
well,
sexually harass people.
Well,
so like, wait.
That's not so much. It's like I don't know what it's like to be consistently and persistently sexually harassed. I understand theoretically that it could be uncomfortable, but I don't have the experience to understand how this could not only shape my view of an entire gender and world, but could make me leave a game.
Yeah. No, that's
so
absolutely.
So like what would in my experience be like, oh yeah, I could see how that could be uncomfortable for someone else. It's for someone else's experience. Oh my god, I'm never coming back to this. And understanding that what your experience is not everybody's total experience, is having that openness to empathy alone, just being receptive to what people might say to you, could solve a lot of these problems before they start.
Yeah, it's really good. I have nothing to add to that. It's good.
Just I mean, like it's, and I don't mind being called a social justice warrior about it. Like if you feel like SJWing me, that's fine. I'll get a T-shirt. But you have to be aware of your privilege levels in regards to this. Like Bucky's 6 foot plus, 250 plus. Like there's a lot.
Dude.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that happens to people that just probably won't happen to Bucky.
No.
And he understands theoretically that they happen, but I don't think he understands what it's like to have it happen to him. So
Right.
I have seen him make the effort to try to empathize and put himself in the place, because it takes an active effort. You can't passively be like, oh yeah, I know what that's like. You have to be like, man, I think that would suck. Does it suck? It does suck. I don't like things sucking.
I do have a professional sort of advantage of doing that, because
You do, but not everybody who's 6 foot 250 plus does.
I understand that. You need to sort of get out of your own spaces occasionally.
You gotta get out of your own skin.
and be empathetic. The reason I say is I do my, generally speaking, for the last several years, my at least 20 hours of pro bono work dealing with almost exclusively victims, people who have been sexually assaulted, people who are fleeing abusive exes, mostly women, but some men, who are just like in really bad situations. So it's something that I've gotten to see a lot of. But people need to be aware that just because they're not seeing it and that's not part of their life doesn't mean that it's not happening to other people or that they're not sensitive.
I'm going to respond directly to one of our commenters, Isaac. Understanding that other people can legitimately have legitimately different perspectives that are perfectly valid seems pretty elementary, but I guess that there are life stories that make it hard to see that. Isaac, I'm going to go ahead and say that you're more empathetic than a lot of people, because it is hard to understand that other people have other life experiences. It's not something that comes easy to everybody. I have seen people get that, and I call it an aha moment, where they're like, that would suck. And sometimes you have to physically and like step by step, and I sock puppet it. It's like, yeah, it would really suck if someone bigger than you made you do things that you don't want to do. And then when you told on them, their friends agreed with him. Wouldn't that suck? Yeah, that would suck. Okay, now imagine that's your whole life. Well, that's horrifying. The thing that you fear about prison is what other people who share your world fear about walking down the street every day. So imagine that. Oh, that would be horrible. And I had to sock puppet that to that person, and they got that aha moment. And I think it kind of changed their perspective. So I understand how you might think it's elementary, but you're more empathetic than a lot of people, dude. Seriously. There are some people who, even after having sock puppeted shit like that to them, they don't get it. So, I mean, you have to take them by the hand and walk them through the steps. But how that's awful.
One of the other... This is not really a problem because you posted it in a very, very large, very popular group about sort of MES Werewolf. Is a lot of these articles I feel like are sort of preaching to the converted. Or preaching to the choir, as it were.
I'm going to show you Dag Unmoderated someday.
Yeah, there's a reason I don't bother art. They're rotten with Nazis. And apparently a lot of weird sexual stuff.
Just to take a time out, I play in a different... I bother
okay, not rotten with.
No, I will use the word rotten with, because if there's so much as one. The saying is the saying isn't one bad apple is unfortunate. The saying is a bad apple spoils the bunch. All right. So I play in a different org, and one of the orgs has had people come out basically neo-Nazis. And the level
I'm trying to avoid that term. They're white nationalists.
They're nationalist
state identitarian.
They're nationalist identitarian kinnists, and that's basically neo-Nazi.
That's Nazi.
So when you point that out to other people, they're like, "Well, that's what they believe." It's like that's not okay.
That's not like I think chocolate's a better flavor.
Why are you so mad at them? It's like because I spend a week alone with them in the middle of the woods, and while I am a large man who does not fear that.
The constant oven jokes are kind of an issue.
Yeah, like while I'm a large man who does not fear that, it's kind of it makes that org, and this is something that our org doesn't have. It makes that org a hard sell for me to give to other POC and say Jewish women who don't want to be alone in the woods for a week at a time with neo-Nazis.
Yeah,
that's not a thing that they particularly look
I
for.
would not put that on my agenda.
They would not use up their 7 days of vacation
out,
for that.
I'm a giant dude. I don't want to be in that situation. There's no win there for me.
Yeah.
And then nothing happened would be the best possible outcome.
Yeah. So
that's not okay.
So and when I said neo-Nazis, I felt like a hard stop in the chat. Everybody's like, "Oh my god, yeah, that's clearly awful." Okay, so let's replace neo-Nazis with rapey misogynists. There are a lot of gaming organizations that have that issue, and it's considered a matter of opinion. And I feel the same way about both. I do. And I think that all these organizations can take steps. Some of them are outlined here. Some of them need work. And I posted another article about sexual harassment that I think is something
being socially awkward isn't an excuse. Being socially awkward, people.
Yeah, it's not. It does not make it suddenly okay. It's like I didn't get that social cue. It's like you don't need to get social cues. No is a complete sentence. I will put up the Oprah meme later if you want.
Yeah.
No doesn't need a Y. No is a complete sentence. Stop. No. Don't. These are complete sentences.
There's different things are used as I don't want to say excuses, but they're often used as excuses. To put an analogy, any sort of mental condition, people are used to Law and Order, right? You're not guilty because of the insanity defense, right? What they don't get is that stuff like that is never defense at tort. If you're like, well, I was out of my mind, they're like, yes, and you were still completely responsible for what you did. Like, there's different levels of responsibility, and just because one thing may protect you in one situation doesn't mean that it should be used more socially. So, in any event, I said earlier 15 is something that just inarguably I can agree with.
Yeah.
Don't just
This is as much as a general. This is as much a mission statement as anything.
Be a paragon of virtue. Believe that sunlight is the best disinfectant. Report things you see. Encourage people to report. Then protect those people who report. And there's a lot of other points about resistance, but you should be encouraging people who have had any of these things to be public and to get those reports in. I mean, I understand respecting people who don't want to report, but it is a problem because then there's no paper trail, there's no record, and it keeps things in the rumor mill. And that is the worst place for any of them to be.
And that is not victim blaming.
Because
that's not victim blaming. If you can't report, no one's hating on you. Just you do what you can. It's Project Mayhem. You decide your own level of involvement. And if you can only involve yourself to a certain point, not only do I understand, I sympathize, I empathize. I totally get how you might feel that, listen, I'm barely in this group, and if I start saying, and I've been there, I'm barely in this group, and if I report what is essentially an assault, I won't have any friends. I get how you might feel that way. And the only thing that I can do is say that if you do that hopefully MES is set up in a way where that won't be the case, where you will have friends. And I can tell you that if you tell me those things, I'm going to try to not only just believe you, but to do the things you need to get done so that you feel comfortable again. And I think that's basically what everybody's...
I mean, there's
well, the other danger from an organizational point of view is something happens, it's reported, it's acted on, the player is punished, and it's all done quietly. Nobody knows what happened.
That's another thing, yeah. I'm also against that.
I understand why that happens. I understand the impetus for that. I can't be sympathetic to it.
Yeah, I don't believe in confidentiality or any of this privilege nonsense for LARPing in general. We're not penitents. STs aren't priests. It's not lawyer-client. It's not doctor-patient confidentiality.
And the second someone slaps an organization with a lawsuit, this whole confidentiality shit's going to come
And this
apart.
organization, much like other gaming organizations, despite their protestations, definitely are not private clubs in the meaning of the Civil Rights Act. That's not... Plain language terms do not equal legal terms, but these are things that need to have paper trails. Now, not everybody can do it, and I know I've seen really messy situations, I think, where people thought that there was going to be a lot more retaliation than there was. Sometimes there isn't. Sometimes there is.
Well, I think the thing to keep in mind about this is, despite simple, punchy lines like this, it's not easy.
It's super hard.
If the solutions were easy... everyone would have done them.
But what was it? One person posted, also people who assault you aren't your friends. And that seems like it's on its face obvious, but we come from a culture and a society where people are repeatedly assaulted by people they are told are their friends and benefactors.
Right, or were their friends until they were assaulted. I mean, that does happen.
And are told to not only accept, but enjoy what is essentially an assault on their person, and then that transfers throughout the rest of their life. There's a reason why people who are abused accept that abuse. And a lot of it's because they're told that abuse isn't abuse.
As somebody who, as I said, does a lot of work with victims, if this would be up to them,
I hate my face.
But if for one moment they actually wanted to do it officially, I would immediately call the police. Well, I actually would contact victim services first, but then call the police. There is a better order of it than the Law and Order version of walking into a police station saying you were assaulted. Nobody should really ever do that. But every state has an Office of Victim Services that will set you up with counselors, police, financial assistance, and a bunch of other things. You really need to know your state's benefits.
Here's the thing. I also, professionally, am a mandatory reporter. If you tell me something that falls into what is essentially a crime, as much as I want to be your friend and be cool about it, I'm legally obligated in some instances.
Well, I'm an officer of the court.
I have to call the police. So know that, and I don't want you to use that as a reason to not tell people that you know around you things. Like, everybody wants to help, or at least good people want to help. And as much as I am a misanthrope on screen, I believe that the majority of people
the mask falling off.
Yeah, just take that off for a second. I believe that there's a reason why, as one of my friends says, there's a reason why we have bridges. It's because a bunch of people work together to put them up. The majority of humanity is good, and I want to believe in the goodness of man, so I want you to report these things so that we can get at the goodness of man.
People can't help and protect you if they don't know who you are.
And
which is it's
and as much as I would like to throw on a mask and daredevil the shit out of somebody who's an asshole, I really can't do that until I know who the asshole is. No, I mean, I won't do those things because vigilantism is wrong.
Let me say this, and I'll use Last Chronicle as a pretty good thing. When these people are ousted and this stuff becomes public, regardless of how uncomfortable it is at the time or any hurt feelings or anything, the bad actors, at least locally, have all been driven off shortly after being put in the public. Sunlight is the best disinfectant.
Not all of them. Not enough of them. There are a few still left.
Well, I don't know who.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know who.
Please didn't report them. Tell me. Like, I can't work on incomplete knowledge.
But that's the point, and that's the thing that all of us...
Why is Ravnos 13 trying to turn me into some sort of half-assed bounty hunter?
That's one thing we all have to keep in mind, though, is that a lot of us who aren't involved in these things don't know what to do. And
that's also a function of our privilege. Like, yeah. I don't get sexually harassed.
We don't. We right now are sort of desperate for a female voice on this
panel.
and
we're looking for one. Like, these aren't things that happen to me. So, like, I'm of my own nature.
Well, the flip side has happened.
Always, well, yeah, but you know what? It was so quickly dealt with and Like that's why I don't believe that whole concept of false accusations. Like that's like, oh, we should be careful about false accusations. No, fuck that. Those are self-correcting and usually immediately.
Generally, although it is what they bring up here is some of the articles having to do with things that were proven to be like completely false whole cloth accusations to the police. Don't think that's really extrapolatable to what happens in the rumor mill of like a LARPing organization, but needless to say, it will still be the minority of situations where somebody's just making up a story whole cloth, especially one as hurtful and problematic as this person sexually harassed me, groped me, attacked me, anything like that. I am definitely more inclined, especially at something like a con, where a lot of this stuff is rampant and there are people...
Somebody mentioned Last Cane. I don't know what happened. Is there something that happened at Last Cane?
I didn't go to this can because they weren't running the new APOC. And
well,
it's only 45 minutes away, but I still didn't go.
I was totally going to go. I just couldn't get off work because it was a weekday. But I love my Canadian brothers and sisters.
There's only one thing to do at a time like this is eat. Also, people who eat half a cupcake are the worst people. Like, what the fuck is that about? I'm having 2 halves of 2 different cupcakes. That's a whole cupcake, lady. You're just ruining life.
All right, you guys want to transition back to Werewolf a little bit to close out the show?
Yes. Are there any... I feel like it's a weird time to ask for questions.
Jesus.
What? What's happening? Multiple sexual assaults handled poorly at King. Okay.
I've heard rumor of that. I don't know enough to talk about it.
I hadn't even heard that.
Yeah.
Nobody tells me anything.
Where is Kane held? It's Canada, right?
Well, it's different. Well, this year was in Hamilton. It's like it's their
What's the
national
name
event.
again?
Hamilton.
Jesus.
Where's it gonna be next year?
BC.
British Columbia?
God. Well,
Yeah.
definitely not
Well,
that. Like,
have fun with that, Canucks, because no.
well, Canada's a very big place.
Is it?
Where is it happening? In Canada.
It's right over there.
Poetry.
Right.
All right. Any closing thoughts on this subject, guys? I know obviously we're not going to put a button on this today.
No, there's no way. This is a subject that should not have a button. This should be a constant and ongoing conversation that evolves with the organization and occasionally looks back at topics we thought we've covered to make sure that they are friggin' covered.
Well, that's why we're making it a new segment. We're going to do this every episode.
Well, that's the thing I want to say is that if you're watching this because you want to talk about Werewolf and you want to talk about gaming stuff and you want that stuff and you're wondering why we're talking about this, this is a vital part of the hobby and growing the hobby.
If you don't feel safe playing rock paper scissors alone in a room with somebody, you won't LARP. And if you won't LARP, then my game's smaller. If my game's smaller, I get to own less people. These are things that I cannot accept.
Games suffer because people definitely take a view that it's like, well, this is for the SJWs and the oversensitive bleeding hearts and all that. If you want to be a soulless pragmatist, which I've been accused of, it's bad for the game. It's bad for the culture. If it's bad for the culture and bad for the game and you're not going to retain players, then I don't care how you feel about the social justice metric of it. You can continue to have whatever dumb opinions you have. But if it's going to lead to a fewer player LARP, then you're running your game wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, right now we have 2,000 or so players playing Werewolf in this org. There's no reason that couldn't be 1 million. Like, we can do better. And one of the things we can do better is inclusivity and being not assholes to each other.
And to make... And it's not always going to be a social topic. It's not always going to be the POC topic. It's not always going to be cultural or some sort of justice topic. Mm-hmm. I honestly want to discuss technology and its role in LARPing next time.
Yeah,
that's like things like apps.
It's going to be huge.
Yeah, things like apps.
We're going to have to spear tackle Brian so he stops talking as opposed to this one.
But like,
relatively quiet.
Make things to make the hobby more inclusive and better, improve the game.
Right, it doesn't just include.
If you are the guy who wants to make the game revert back to the 1990s, where it was done in a basement with 6 dudes who all looked shockingly alike, I don't like you, and I want to ruin your good time, because you've ruined mine for 20 years.
Didn't you see their video about how cool they were that I do so?
No.
Is that too real?
No, I didn't. Because
apparently there's a movie about what edgelords White Wolf was back in the day that they then produced a movie. He produced a movie about how cool they were.
It took too long to load on my AOL, so I didn't get to watch it.
If I ever produce a movie about how cool I am,
Isaac once again, better costuming. I'm king props.
Yeah.
I love these are all topics that we plan to cover. But,
But absolutely.
I
it's
think,
not all going to be
I think
heavy,
that this one was extraordinarily timely.
And
I think it was important, and I think it would be cowardly of us
they are all
not
important.
to mention this one. No, they're all yes, but props being important is not.
Oh, it's not. No. I'm sorry. Props are not on the same level as
do
the
not
ongoing
rank fellow players.
Right, or the ongoing racial issues in LARPing, or the other big ones, and we're not going to put them
Henry
on.
had a hammer, and Iggy's still mad.
He could whistle. He could sing. He
I'm
went to the mountain early in the morning.
He could whistle. He could sing.
So
Yeah, I was there. We've digressed a little
All right,
bit,
I'm
but
sorry.
We're going to cover all sorts.
I'm
of
not
topics.
sorry. That was a lie.
all
That
right.
was a blatant
So
lie.
what have you guys seen? I see in the last couple weeks.
Not enough use of renown, which I'm gonna go out and fixing. Also, that's one of the things
We only had one session.
Well, but that's no. I have one session and one gaming convention, and that's one of the things
okay,
one of the hidden benefits. I don't know if it's hidden or not hidden. One of the benefits of being Silverfang actually is one of the things that I hadn't even caught until just now. That you can use renown and be socially active and still not have it hinder your ability to gain rank in a way that other players would. Because using renown means that fleeting renown is gone.
Right.
And you don't get to use it towards ranking. Whereas Silverfangs get to use one every month.
You have a healthy amount of innate renown, even at low ranks.
Yeah.
You always have your rank in
Yes,
innate
but
renown.
using your renown to counteract other people's renown or throwing renown at people to do things.
it only costs you if it's fleeting.
Yeah. But that's part of the fun is throwing it at people and then daring them to match you.
Right, but I don't think you get to that level of ammunition. Like, if I'm a Cleoth, right, and I've got a wisdom, or 2 wisdom, right? Because I like auspicial purview. No, you get your rank.
Yeah, Cleoth is one.
Oh, I'm sorry, I meant Foster. But,
There we go.
but sure, so I've got a couple of wisdom. It's really only when I need the 3rd renown chop for that night, I'm even looking at my fleeting. And the problem just gets more attenuated. Once you're an Elder, I'm sorry, you're not ranking anymore. Once you're basically an Adrian or an Athro, like if you've gotten your fleeting renown, you've spent all night renown chopping people. So,
Yes, there is a water feature in my dining room. It is for my dog. I like my dog better than I like most people. I'm not turning it off.
One thing I'll say about the game world in the last 2 weeks is we had our first official update of the Doomsday Clock. Moved 10
I
seconds.
wanted to leave that for last.
Well, we've only got a few minutes left.
No, we have as long as we want. This is America. I don't have to work tomorrow.
Well, let's not talk about it a little bit.
What are we on right now?
Well, it's 11:30, so it's been almost 2 hours.
Almost 2 hours.
Oh, that's not a big. I mean, fuck, we've gone 2.5.
No, we're doing fine. But if I may,
He's just been waiting to talk about
Okay,
this.
chomping at the bit. Go ahead.
No. We had our first official movement of the Doomsday Clock.
Movement.
The one thing we had, I think, 15 STs filled out their forms, which is a good sample. I'd like more, of course, but I think that was enough to make the clock work. One thing I was happy with is that the clock only moved 10 seconds. We had some concerns. This is some inside storyteller baseball. We, and by that I mean me, was a little concerned that the clock would be jumping around all over the place. It would go up a minute and go down a minute. I thought we had designed things so it wouldn't do that, and it turned out that it did basically balance out. It gained 10 seconds a month, which, if that was the number going forward, we wouldn't hit midnight for 3 years. Which is a good number.
Should be good, because I feel like the apocalypse.
Literally the apocalypse.
Yeah.
The big thing I saw from reporting is, and this is something players should keep in mind, is that almost every single ST reported a veil breach. Every single ST, every single game.
As well they should. Players are violating and that's not new to this. Here's the thing. In this new system, it is harder to protect the veil because, and I'm not saying influence-wise, because there are influences in both games, and influence can cover veil breaches, but there are infinitely fewer powers that just shroud the whole area, fill the area with fog, or do any of these things.
Curse of Aeolus for the win.
Black Fury still have it. Everybody else pretty much lost it. To occlude the area with just a gift, as opposed to needing an influence character to cover it later or lock the area down, it is much harder in the new system to protect the veil. And most players' response have been like, fuck it. I'm good with the delirium. Between the delirium, the curse, and a couple of powers, and I guess our influence characters will deal with it later. It's like, well, that's terrible.
Well, even if you're covering it so it doesn't go out to the public,
it still happens.
There are still people out there who saw Werewolf doing werewolf shit.
And the spirits saw it because you violated the litany.
Yes.
not lifting the veil isn't like the masquerade, but what if the prince catches me? It would be like if the spirit of vampirism busted you doing that. Like, your spirits are blowing you in. They know you did it, and you're violating the litany. That's something you're not supposed to do.
Right. So it's something. The problem is that the more normal people know about there being giant werewolves in your town, probably the worse off you're gonna be. Not even necessarily just hunters. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but if I saw a 9-foot-tall killing machine walking down the street, it would make me question certain assumptions I've carried in my life to this point.
Whatever, I'm from New York. That ain't shit.
Well, it's also, remember, if the veil's been breached, right, it's not just that humans will know there's werewolves and the apocalypse has moved that much forward. But you're giving enemy intel. All of those films of you or other evidence of you or the things that you're up to and the targets you've done, your physical descriptions.
There's somebody out there watching you and has recording what your power level is.
Right, TVZ. And they're like, oh, well, I mean...
We can take them.
Yeah, and they can be like, that's that person. They're a pretty active red talent, so we know who to assassinate. Or just wipe out the local wolf population just to mess with them. Or this person is, let's go with one of the more... insular groups where they keep spotting a silent strider who just apparently has no F's to give. And they're like, all right, well, just crack down on the Middle Eastern population of small town America X. Include the Coptic Christians in that and the Muslim. We'll get him. We'll find his kinfolk that way.
Or just, I mean, like, here's the thing. If you keep pinging on people's radar, there are enough. This isn't England yet, but we are going to have England again. This isn't England yet. But the more you look around, the more you will notice there are fucking cameras everywhere. And not one of you bastards has ever made a point to never be without a packmate. You guys walk around alone.
Some people do. The culture's different pack to pack.
And game to game. Between country.
A lot of people walk around alone a whole hell of a lot.
If you're walking around alone as an ST, if you're in an area that you know is worm tainted and enemy held, and you're pretty sure that you're gonna out there solo Scooby-Dooing a Pentex plot, I will kill your tune. I will do it legitimately. I'll probably do it with stock 3 NPCs. But you had better be fully combat capable if you're gonna try to do that stuff.
We're getting a lot of players and storytellers reporting back that they don't believe stock NPCs are scary enough and that they need to tune them up some.
Nope. They're good. They're good. You know what you need? It's something called, it's 1, patience, 2, planning. Because if you gave me 2 groups of 5 stock NPC 3s and a half an hour, I could take your best pack.
You can have them by the busload. Here's the thing.
I won't need. I just need 10 and half an hour, and I'll take your best pack.
The only thing that's attenuating combat at this point is still, even though it's been slightly brought in, is the mountain of talons and healing stuff that you can have on your character. Healing is what's going to keep combat long. But Chody, neonate vampires, low stock level, Fomori.
You don't even need to go that far. You only get those.
No, I know. I'm just mentioning things from the combat primer. Are these people who have read the combat primer?
No,
and I need to update it, but still.
You only get those sweet regen benefits round 5, round 6, round 7. Navy SEALs, pirates, about 7 years ago. How'd they get them? A bunch of pirates off the coast of Somalia took a bunch of hostages. They had a bunch of Navy SEALs all lined up simultaneous headshots on 3, 2, 1, boom. All you do is you have 8 guys line up simultaneous shots on one guy.
Oh, your busload. Here's the thing: your stock 3 NPCs, Fomori, right? They're gonna get rage. They get a whole bunch of other advantages. They get superpowers.
They get willpower.
More importantly, when they have the auspice Ragabash, they get trick shot, and they're shooting silver because there isn't a good goddamn reason you can explain to me why Fomori wouldn't shoot silver. It's one of those arguments I used to get in Revised. Hey, how come your Elder BSDs all have chaos mechanics? You write me a good reason why they wouldn't go out and learn chaos mechanics if they could.
In the Revised system where you could punch a spirit and learn a gift as a BSD.
And learn a gift as a BSD.
Yeah.
So, in the new system, they can't do that anymore. But, you explain to me why you don't have a bunch of stock. I mean, you're automatically doing, without chops, you're filling their physical slots with ag damage, always, and a gnosis tax, always. And if you're not doing that, then that means you just decided that you don't want Ragabash stock NPCs. You should have an NPC who interdicts spirits because the good guys are always going to be better at it than the bad guys.
Does trick shot fill up a physical slot?
Yeah, it still fills up a physical slot. Yeah.
Why? Because it's not.
It's still a hit. It doesn't matter. It's a hit.
All right.
So that's 4 silver ag for the cost of doing business and 2 gnosis lost, and there's no chops. So these chody idiots just cost you 4 ag and 2 gnosis.
That's round 1.
And those aren't those aren't the threats. They're just the environment. They're like what used to be the clouds of caustic smoke, the sort of regen tax that some STs would have, or like the IR smoke, so everybody's blind. Once you get to higher stock levels or working in neonate vampires, which are nightmarish, so they're going to be bullseyeing you instead of trick shotting, if they're sheeted anyway. And then on their celerity actions, because they start off way quicker than werewolves do, they're going to be doing their 2 silver ag automatically, and then every chop
Claymores.
They're going to be hitting you.
See, this is all getting too supernatural and weird for me.
Well, a truckload of regular dudes isn't a threat.
That's not true. A truckload of regular dudes with the proper kit.
Even with the proper kit, it's still only going to be a max. Like, they can only hit twice, and then one socially, one mentally.
Plus,
especially regular dudes.
Plus the delirium.
Yeah, and the delirium is just going to turn them off, or they can invoke delirium or unchain the beast mind, a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, but no. What I'm saying when I say no supernaturals, they don't have to use supernatural shit on you. Two groups of dudes.
Oh no, I mean just the guns are enough.
2 groups of dudes with sniper rifles and a laid out claymore daisy chain will ruin a pack. And that badass who's like, I've never left a battle and I've never left a man behind is gonna have a hard choice.
Well, also because the Fomori get willpower retests. Normal humans don't. That is incredible.
And Fomori used to be the chodes of werewolf, and they
that has changed.
That has really changed. And here's the thing: stock NPCs are weaker in vampire because they don't get combat techniques. In werewolf, most of those combat techniques are now gifts.
Yeah.
So they have full access to a whole ton of powers that, like, a stock ghoul will never be as scary as a stock Fomori. And it's not even that they're supposed to be on the same power level, but one is insanely more powerful pound for pound per stock level than a ghoul is. It's like frighteningly different. It's not.
Once your STs get their feet under them and realize how powerful Fomori can be, I think we're gonna see more of a balancing again. I think STs are still learning the system just like players are. And when you don't think about the Fomori and what they can do, you're just giving them brawl spec, and they're punching things
for minimal damage and gonna rely on the rage that they're gonna get never because they're already gonna be dead in 2 rounds of combat.
Yeah.
No, don't run them like that. Just don't.
The other thing STs have to keep in mind is that the era of the giant monster is over. I mean, irrelevant of how epic your stock 15 monster Fomori is,
you will shred it because there's a reason why like large animals lose to packs of smaller predators. Because they will be torn apart by packs of smaller predators.
And there's a mechanic for that.
Yeah.
The giant monster has more physicals, which is one problematic thing. Stop describing Hispo in the book as being the size of a small car, and then under the monster rules say a small car has an additional physical slot to attack, because that's bad writing. I'm sorry, whoever did that. I understand the flavor you wanted, but don't use terms and then use those same terms elsewhere to mean other things. In any event.
So that's just the point, is that the NPC kit the STs have available right now should be more than threatening enough. And if STs are having problems with that, honestly, as a player, I would go to your ST and talk to them about how they can be more effective. And
they're not gonna.
I know they're not going to, but here's the reason. These aren't just good things to make combat more interesting. They're going to prepare you for that day when PvP starts. Because
the walls are going to come down with Vamp.
Well, no, not with Vamp. Not with Vamp.
Not just
other PCs.
But yeah, once there's actual antagonism, if you don't know how all these mechanics work,
and you've just been beating up chodes for the last year and a half, and suddenly you have to actually
and
fight
like,
another character.
These combos exist, and you can do that? Is this against the rules? How is this legit? You're going to be so behind the 8 ball,
and if you're
even ruling on those combats.
Yeah.
And if you're the ST, there's usually only 2 ways STs deal with that. You either roll with everything, which is going to be an issue because you don't know what's actually kosher, or you're going to say no to everything, in which case people are not going to want to travel to your game.
Well, there's 2 ends to it. One, you want your ST to be comfortable running combat. You want your ST to have experience running deadly combat, because at some point you're going to be in a deadly combat and you're going to want that run right, especially in a PvP situation. And the other half of it is, you want to be involved in serious, if you're a character who's interested in this sort of thing, if you're a murder machine and you're just running over all those stock NPCs, because the ST doesn't have the wherewithal to put them together.
Doesn't understand yet their full potential. Let's be as polite as possible.
Yeah.
Not everybody is as well versed as everybody else, but there are simple tips and tricks to make your NPCs infinitely tougher, infinitely more deadly, much more threatening.
And I think that's what we can say about that. It benefits everyone to be higher lethality. Even the threat of the higher lethality is good for everyone. It's good for the game. It's good for you as a player, and it's good for your storytellers. Don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, it keeps the stakes high. It makes everything epic more epic because it has meaning.
Whatever. I'm fine with you guys not knowing how to do PvP combat because I'm going to learn it, and I'd rather have the advantage.
Well, I will say it does.
There are monsters like Bucky in the world, and you should probably learn how to deal with them before the super predator swims into your game.
My characters are all pretty much garbage in combat.
It doesn't.
But I feel you.
All right, guys. I think that's going to be enough for us tonight. We covered a lot of ground. Unless any of you guys have anything else.
Check the Facebook page, Talking About Werewolves, Facebook fan page. We're going to be posting what you guys want to talk about next time. I'm leaning towards in the OOC segment discussing the possibilities for technology improving LARP. If you guys don't want to talk about that or want to talk about something else, hey, bring it up. We could use it. We're going to be probably posting which tribe and pharaoh group we want to talk about. If there's a massive preference another way, we'll listen to that too.
Also, we didn't get to Arun tonight.
Oh.
We just ran out of time.
We should just have an auspice episode.
We should.
Do you want to do
Is that something you guys want to have as an auspice episode?
We really haven't broken down the potentials of all the auspices for role-playing purposes. Yeah, we never did it.
Yeah.
So that's something we can talk about. But that's all we talk to think about over the next 2 weeks. Guys, it's been a delight. Good conversation. Keep talking to each other.
Peace out.
Peace out.
Peace out.
Be well, guys. See